On behalf of Atlassian and CARAHCAST, I would like to welcome you to our session, Jira Line, Unlock the Agility of Your Federal Agency.
Sure. Hey, I'm Dan Wilson. I'm with Wrightstar, as I've just been introduced as one of the founders of Wrightstar, and also in business development. I'm actually not the expert on this particular presentation. Derek is. He's actually Superman of Jira Line, so you'll see that during the presentation. But Wrightstar, we're an ITSM and DevOps Lean Agile portfolio management consulting company. This is what we do. This is all that we do. We focus on the needs for ITSM and also DevOps. Focus on Atlassian products. We're an Atlassian partner, and we bring our expertise to the table when implementing any of the Atlassian products, including Jira Line. So we'll talk a little bit about that during the presentation today. Wrightstar offerings, a long list here. I'm not going to read them all. I had just mentioned we cover all the Atlassian products, but we also provide advisory services, anything to do with safe or agile transformation. We have expert technical leads that actually implement and provide capabilities for Atlassian products. We do proof of concepts. We also do coaching and training and consulting, which is a big part of the practice now in terms of making sure and assured that the implementation of agile and safe and related products are done efficiently and to where you could really use them from day one. We also provide our own products. We have a ScanStar barcoding product, as well as a PKI single sign-on CAC security integration product.
So, hello everyone. I'm Derek Ether. I'm a senior solutions engineer here at Atlassian. It's traditionally my responsibility to demonstrate capabilities of the products. And you can see my past. Prior to coming to Atlassian, I was a customer and I was an organizational transformation consultant. And then later I was the continuous improvement practice lead for a large bank. At that location, we implemented Jira Line, starting with 3 portfolios, expanded to 8 portfolios, and now that is an enterprise-wide implementation. So I'm happy to be here. So at Atlassian, we're looking to unleash the potential of every team. And when we say every team, that includes every public sector or federal agency, all those teams. And so we have a platform or a collection of products that help meet the needs of all those different types of teams, be it Agile teams, DevOps teams, ITSM or ITOPS teams. All of those are integrated throughout our products.
Yeah, so Derek, thanks a lot. I already introduced you as Superman, so you have something to live up to. I notice you don't have your cape on today.
Not today.
But just to let everybody, Derek was being very modest in his introduction. He is the expert, and he's really off the chain when it comes to Jira Line. So I appreciate the opportunity to talk to you today, Derek.
I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, sure. Same here. So you've been working with Jira Line for years. First as a customer, and then as somebody that does demos and provide direction to federal agencies and other customers. Before we get started, would you mind just relating to us in a nutshell what Jira Line is and what it does, and then maybe relate it to your experiences, your personal experiences through your, Jira Line journey?
Sure. So Jira Line is a role-based SaaS solution. What it does is it provides a level of visibility and alignment within an organization people haven't seen before. It was designed from the top down to meet organizational or enterprise level needs, unlike Jira, which started from the bottom up. And so it was there to unlock the potential of every team, those teams being delivery teams. Jira Line, we're talking about organizational teams, portfolio teams, executive teams. And the follow-on question would be,
Oh,
Remind me of that one, Dan.
sure. Anything you want to say, but essentially it has to do with if you can relate your experiences, as a customer when you were using the product and how it helped or transformed the organization.
Sure. So prior to coming to Atlassian back in the day, so back in, say, 2011, my first actual exposure to Jira Line, it was known as AgileCraft. And a mutual friend introduced me to Steve Elliott, and he was actually writing Jira Line at the time. And so this was like a late 2011. And we were launching a new company, and our focus was organizational transformation. And so myself and my friend, we met with Steve and we got to see what AgileCraft was all about. And from there, when I was a founding employer of this company, whenever we did organizational transformation, it was always these really big companies, and they had a lot of organizational complexity. And it didn't matter what processes you were trying to scale, or the complexity that you're dealing with, or the dependencies that you were trying to wrestle with. You always needed some type of tool. If you're dealing with a delivery team, sure, agilists will want you to use sticky notes and boards like what you see behind me here. But when you are at scale and you're distributed across, cities, states, countries, then we don't have that luxury of going and meeting in a room. And so we were able to see, Jira Line help meet that need where it, bridge that gap. And so as a customer early on, it was as a transformation consultant, one of the principal consultants, and then later as VP of ALM platforms. Every time we would do a transformation, we would use a product, a product that would scale, be it the version ones, the rallies, and at the time, the AgileCraft. And since then, Jira Line or AgileCraft was acquired by Atlassian, rebranded as Jira Line. Once I left my previous company, hey, if it works, use it, right? And so at the bank, they were going through a large scale organizational transformation. When I came on board, they were already in talks with AgileCraft at the time to bring that in. I already knew I knew the people at AgileCraft, so I was comfortable with that. I knew how to do the implementation or how we would get value out of the platform. And definitely the bank saw the value, and we can talk about that if we have time. But as a result, it expanded. And when it was my time to, when I was ready to move on to greener pastures, it was like a homecoming. When I came to Atlassian, the values and the principles resonated with me, but also, the product was an excellent product. And unlike other products that may be not being developed and improved as often as one would hope, I've seen AgileCraft improve over the last decade, and coming into Atlassian, I see, we're deploying, every couple of weeks internally, and then every month we're seeing new capabilities and improvements being rolled out to our customers.
Yeah, that's interesting. In terms of the acceptance of, let's just say, Jira Line, when people see the tool, they get it right away. In your experience in explaining what the tool can provide within the big bank, let's just call it, did you get any pushback or anything like that? What did you have to share with management to have them decide to move forward with Jira Line?
Yeah, it's interesting depending on the type of user who's interacting with the platform. If you get a Jira user, sometimes they're like, oh, there's just so much here, and a lot of it, our goal is that if based on your role, you're going to see different things or not see. And so a lot of the things that some of the delivery team users, if I do a demonstration and they'll see everything, they're now sitting in the shoes of a senior executive who sees everything. And so they're just not used to seeing the world through that lens. And so again, Jira Line, the value that these executives see is they've never had a place in which their team can meet. They've never had a place or something that's designed where the backlog is designed for them and the strategy room is made for them. And for once they can actually see an aggregation of work that's happening throughout their enterprise in a single place. And so, so that for the executives, the platform resonates with the executives. So the higher you go in the go in the organization, the greater value that they get from the platform.
Right. Yeah. I've seen the same thing. Yeah. Now, on the federal civilian side, the agencies considering Jira Line, or they're starting to look at it and consider how it can help them. Are they looking at the same things that the commercial clients are looking at? Is there any difference in your mind in terms of what they want to see during a demo, or do they not even know?
Excellent question. So there are some commonalities and then the differences. I'll describe both of them. So the commonality is a lot of them, they just don't have the transparency, the visibility that they need, they desperately need. And sometimes they feel it more than they know it. They feel like millions of dollars are going out the door and they don't know where it's going. And so that's a common desire, common need between public sector and commercial. Now, the differentiator is I would describe it as the outcomes that they're trying to accomplish. So one commonality is a lot of organizations are trying to be predictable. Doesn't matter if it's public sector, commercial, they're just trying to make and meet commitments that they've made. They have money, they've made a commitment to somebody, and that commitment is I'm going to deliver something by a certain time for a certain amount of money. And they are being held accountable for that. And they want to make sure that they are doing everything they can to be successful. So that's a commonality. Where it's unique is the differentiator is in commercial markets, the outcomes that they want, sometimes it's organizational agility in that they want adaptability. They want to be able to pivot in the event, we didn't see the example COVID coming. And so some of the organization out there were severely disrupted because they did not have an organizational agility in order to adapt to the changing world. And so those other organizations, again, some of them are trying to make and meet commitments. Others are trying to survive dramatic change, give it in their market or give it in the world. And so again, it's about, are you looking for predictability, adaptability, high quality, happy customers? It depends on what your desired outcomes are.
Right. I also see potential customers as being almost totally paralyzed and not knowing which direction to go in, or they're using spreadsheets and whatever they can find just to keep some organization within their team or teams, and it's refreshing to them to see Jira Line when it is demoed.
Right. And so you nailed it. You would be surprised at how many organizations are still operating with spreadsheets or Google Sheets, and how many more are, more importantly or equally, holding their roadmaps in PowerPoint presentations. And so they try to maintain these PowerPoint presentations the best they can, but we know that as soon as they say they're done, they're already out of date.
Done or leave.
Say that again?
If they leave the organization.
That's
done
right.
or leave. If they leave the organization, they probably take those documents with them.
Yes.
Yeah, not a good thing. So it's kind of interesting. What surprises have you seen while doing demos for customers today? Anything that has surprised you?
I would say how little transparency they actually have. So one of the first things we saw in demonstrating value, it's like, clearly you want to return on your investment as quickly as possible. But when I'm do a demonstration, sometimes I will log out because I'm a super admin. I see everything. And I log in as an individual persona, and I'll log in as the organizational CTO. I'm like, this is what the CTO is going to see. And I will show them, I'm like, I can see here that 50% of the work that your portfolios have recently delivered actually didn't align with your organizational goals that you defined. And they're like, what? And I'm like, yeah, we have the ability to aggregate that data, and we can also calculate the cost in which you just spent on something that wasn't a priority. And not only did you spend the money on something that wasn't a priority, you didn't spend money on something that was. So it's going to cost you twice. And they're kind of horrified partially because they can identify with it. And the number one thing I see is leaders don't have the visibility into where their money and time is going that they desperately need.
Right. Yeah, I've seen that too during demos and conversations with folks. One question that I get a lot from people when I talk to them is they ask, do we need Jira to use Jira Line? And in the same breath, they ask, how do we know we're ready to adopt a tool like Jira Line?
Right.
You use Jira, just use a plugin.
Well, you can try. And again, it's sometimes we don't know what we don't know. And if we try to solve the problem from the bottom up, we have an extreme level of local autonomy. And unfortunately, that doesn't scale, or it's harder to scale when you have too much uniqueness from team to team to team to team. And so Jira Line creates an environment of having a shared understanding of what are we going to call these things, and what are a common language around timelines, and do we have shared commitments? And we're aggregating so much data into Jira Line, and it's not just with Jira. We can integrate data from third-party systems, be the Salesforce, the Marketos, the Clarities, and the like, so that an executive will have more information at their fingertips so they can make better business decisions. But again, it's some individuals think, well, Jira can solve all of our problems. You don't know what you don't know. And sometimes you can start to feel it as you add more and more marketplace apps onto your Jira instance, that it's just not quite solving the problem. Our executives just don't have that level of visibility that we want. And we often say, well, there's an alternative to that. We can align all of your boards in Jira, all your instances, multiple instances of Jira, into a single view and aggregate that information so that your executives can have a holistic view and see, again, are we meeting our commitments, and how much does that cost us? You just don't necessarily get that on individual Jira board level.
Yeah, no, that's right. And the flip side of that question is, for Jira Line, can it work autonomously and work with other products other than Jira?
Yes, so it can work autonomously. So two-part question.
I know that's right. I know that's maybe a dangerous question, but I think that as a user, I probably want to know that if I have something else, can I still use Jira Line if I don't have Jira or other Atlassian products?
Yes. So if you think of a comparison between some of our competitors, think of what used formerly known as version 1 and then became CollabNet and then Digital AI. I don't know what it's called today, but that was a full stack solution. It was encapsulating enterprise all the way down to the team level. And same thing for Rally. Rally also provided the same capability. It was the entire organization. AgileCraft provided that same capability. But the one that people weren't talking about was you were seeing Jira, grow and grow and grow, where you had Jira, and then through an acquisition of Portfolio for Jira, which later became Advanced Roadmaps, you have some capabilities that exist in Jira and it scales, but up to a point. And then you have Jira Line that can scale the entire solution. The difference is, and again, it might be a conversation for another day, but when it comes to the cost, we just charge you for the licenses for those users in the organization that are using all the capabilities of Jira Line. We'll give you several free integrated licenses so that if you're in Jira and those team members want to continue to operate in Jira and do their work in Jira like they've been doing for the last decade, we'll integrate that work into Jira Line. We're not going to charge you for those users, and those users then have access to the team level tier, which includes the backlog. It includes a team room. They can do retrospectives, planning poker. They can do those things that they've normally done in Jira. They can do those in Jira Line, but we're not going to force them to do that. We want to meet them where they are. And so we do have native connectors. So we can integrate with Jira and with Trello And then for a cost, there's an additional cost for, say, integrating Azure DevOps. But again, to unlock the potential of all those teams, we're not demanding that they operate solely within Jira Line, just the ones that are getting the most use, the most value.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Well, that makes a whole lot of sense. You know, when I talk to executives, whether they're on the federal side or commercial side, you know, they're focused on seeing that big picture. You know, they want to see everything that's going on and understand where they are in terms of all their projects, be able to plan for resources and monies and so forth and so on. So one of the questions that I always get is about reports or dashboards.
Right.
They don't want to take, for whatever reason. I think it has to do with they're very busy, just like everybody else. But they don't want to have to dig for the information. They want to have it there so they can make decisions effectively and efficiently, and make sure that the resources that are being used are focused on the right things.
Mm-hmm.
So that really wasn't a statement, Derek. That was a question. What do you think about reports?
So when we reference reports, so we do have a lot of reports, and some will boast are like, wow, there are over 100 reports available in Jira Line. You're like, that's awesome. But the question is do they help solve your problem? Do they answer the questions, you know, that you have? So Jira Line helps you manage your system of delivery. And so do the reports within Jira Line. It helps visualize and expose any either organizational dependencies, risks, again, where is your money going, that type of thing. And the reports that we have within the platform are intentional at different levels of scale. There's team level, program or art level, and portfolio, and then even enterprise level reports. They satisfy the needs of customers, I'm going to say probably 80% of the time. But as organizations get bigger, more complex, you know, there's more complexity, there's more uniqueness. What'll happen is we'll have an executive, they'll say, okay, this is the information I want to get. You know, like, okay, I think that's a reasonable request. You can get 80% of that information right here in this one report. The rest of the information you need, it's over on this screen here or the screen there. It's not necessarily in, say, the portfolio room or the strategy room. It might not all be in one place. But the question is the information there? Yes, it is, but it might not be in a single report. Remember, these are reports that are built right into the platform. And certainly, based on the context of your organization, you can configure the platform to meet your organizational structure, say your value streams, that type of thing, and it will drive the information or the data within these reports. But it still might not 100% meet your needs. So what we can do, we have an additional product called Enterprise Insights. What it will do is it will make a copy and properly structure the data from the transactional database from Jira Line. And then you can use a third-party reporting platform, be it the Tableau, Power BI, MicroStrategies, whatever, to create custom reports all based on the same information that's either originating in Jira Line or aggregating into Jira Line from Jira, from Trello, Azure DevOps, or even from a third-party system. If it's flowing into Jira Line and you can see it on a screen, you can use Enterprise Insights to structure that data and then create reports that either can be nested back into the Jira Line product. You'll see it under external reports, or you could render that Jira Line data in Tableau server, or you can embed it in, say, Confluence, if that's where you want to view your reports.
Yeah, and we've seen reports that have been provided by Jira Line and have given samples to managers and executives, and it's right in line with what you said. It provides the value and the capability for sure. Now, one of the things that is so unique, I think, about the Atlassian product set, we're talking about, you know, Jira Software, Jira Service Management, and so forth, is that you can go to the portal and download the software. If you wanted to, you can use a credit card to buy the product it lists. So that's pretty cool because you can start using the product right away. Now, on the Jira Line side, it really is an enterprise tool. Mm-hmm. It takes some planning up front, right? It even takes planning up front to do a demo that's specific to organizational requirements. We could talk a bit about that in a little bit. But I think the key to a successful Jira Line implementation, as far as I've been able to tell, has been on the services side. Being able to deploy Jira Line, again, in an efficient and effective manner. In your experience in working with customers in implementing Jira Line, or your direct experience when Jira Line was being implemented at the big bank, can you describe the services that you recommend? And the other part of that question, if you can remember, and I'll remind you, are there any services that are recommended and the customer goes, I should have done that. It would have been a whole lot better if I did.
Sure. Okay. Make sure if I answer your question. So before going to the bank, again, we were organizational transformation consultants, and we had a transformation process. And so we knew based on change, doesn't matter if you're using AdCar or if you're using Cotter's change management, there are certain patterns that you can follow in order to implement change at scale. And so we had a very successful deployment pattern that we would do where we would get a shared understanding of, from an executive viewpoint, where are you currently, and where do you want to be? And then what is a safe path to get you where you need to be? Part of that implementation is, how do you measure success and change? And then how do you implement a product and then get usage of the product so that it gives the visibility or the transparency that these executives need? Again, yes, someone can use a credit card and they can buy Jira, but it's not going to have a financial impact on an impact on our organization at a level of scale than if we engage an executive. If we can have a conversation with an executive and understand what is valuable to them, then the services in which we provide, which I used to provide as a consultant, and then once we come to Atlassian, now we want to lean on our partners, because we want to create safety for our customers so that you can use these products so they can get value and get a return on their investment as quickly as possible. If they think they can do it themselves, that can be a very costly decision. And because again, we have learned how to be their trusted advisor. We have learned how we can get them to get a return on their investment in the shortest possible time. That's worth the cost. And again, it creates safety for you as well, because it's like, do you really want to learn how to implement Jira Line? Is that your mission in life? Why don't you, I find it has been very beneficial. You pay an expert, you pay a premium in order to get it done and get a return on your investment just as quickly as possible. I would not expect someone to drop Salesforce in my lap and then for me to configure it all myself and just try to figure it out all myself. I don't think that's a good investment of time and resources. I think the same thing with Jira Line. At scale, to get a return on an investment at scale, it is absolutely worth, pay for that jumpstart. That jumpstart is, instead of just doing this broad enterprise level implementation, let's grab a program or a few programs with our team of teams, and let's see the interaction model of what do we got to do? How do we interact with Jira Line to provide visibility to our executives, but it helps our teams manage their work more effectively. What does that look like? Let's see within 90 days what that looks like. And again, when we start things off, we ask, what is your value driver? Is it predictability? Is it adaptability? Is it making happier customers? And we will taper our implementation strategy to focus on you getting a return on that investment as quickly as possible. Now, the other service that I absolutely recommend is we call them TAMs, technical account managers. I describe them, a solutions architect or a partner will do the implementation, the initial configuration, the initial rollout. But then that TAM is your trusted advisor. They're the ones, they are not doing these direct implementation, but they're advising you. If you have an issue, or if you're like, okay, we want to do this, how would we do this? The customer can engage their TAM. Their TAM then has access to, all of Atlassian. If they don't have the answer, they have access to us. They can get back to you. And again, the goal is, as you onboard more teams into Jira Line, as you get a more return on investment and you're expanding your implementation, then you're going to change how you do business. Organizational agility will change how you do business over time. And again, the TAM is always looking forward into the future on new capabilities, new features, new needs that you might have now or might be up and coming. And again, they can advise you on, this is how we can approach the problem, how we can solve the problem. Again, jump starts or engaging partners using a TAM, I think they're well worth the investment.
Yeah, one of the things that comes to mind about added capability concerning Jira Line, I just ran into this not too long ago, and maybe you could talk about if there are any, we'll just call them add-ons to Jira Line. The one component was the virtual private server capability that Atlassian provides customers, to where their security is so stringent, they need to lock it down so completely. And that's something that Jira Line or Atlassian provides. Have you ever run into that product or that requirement for security?
It may be, and it was outside my purview and somebody else was taking care of that. I can definitely say that, we're trying to accommodate, make sure, keep me on track here. We try to accommodate local, the context of the organization and what their needs are. And so I recognize that, if you have certain security requirements, then an on-premise implementation is what you need to do, and we are offering that with Jira Align, is you can do an on-prem implementation if you don't believe that we meet your security requirements. The goal is, though, within the next few years that we will, and that you then have that choice of, do you want to do on-prem data center or do you want to go to the cloud? But as of right now, we're absolutely offering Jira Align on-prem to our customers, and there isn't a problem if you have Jira in the cloud. We can still do an integration with that. So there's no issues there. But again, it's as long as we're providing that comfort, that safety of knowing that, we have your best intentions at heart, again, we can do an on-prem implementation.
Right. Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, because I completely forgot that there's both an on-prem as well as a cloud implementation. And my question actually had to do with cloud. But thanks for expanding upon my question. I appreciate it. Actually, you saved me. Thank you. So what type of methodology, or does a customer need a methodology before they decide to move forward with implementing Jira Line? What I mean about Agile, whether it's safe or something else. What's your thoughts on that?
It's helpful, but it's not necessary. And so I've never seen, even when I was in the federal space a long time ago, and we were all waterfall, and we bought an Agile solution, and it didn't work out for us really well. But that being said, Jira Line takes into consideration that we're not requiring you to change your delivery framework or use a scaling framework that is not native to you. You can say that you want, if you come to us and say, okay, we're trying to implement SAFe at our organization. We're like, okay. And that helps. You saying that for your organization helps them and us. We have more of a shared understanding of how you want to do something and what you're going to call something. We have a common vocabulary and some common practices we can lean back on. That being said, Jira Line is highly extendable to the point that we're not requiring your entire organization to follow SAFe. We're not requiring your entire organization to, commit to a specific delivery framework. So you can have a program or portfolio that is hardware driven. It's very waterfall. And then we have an IT group that is going to be following SAFe. And then even within that, let's say I have some teams that are doing iterative and incremental development. They may be using Scrum or some Scrumish iterative practices, and some of them are strictly Kanban driven, very flow driven or interrupt driven work. And so we can accommodate those. It's understanding what is how does your work flow? If you can understand clarity and accountability within your organization, is how do you do your day-to-day work? I don't care what you call it. But when you do say, we follow SAFe, or we follow less, or we do Scrum at scale, it helps. It advances the conversation very, very quickly. We can say, oh, so you call this, but we don't require it. We can, like I said, we can have bimodal or multimodal organizations, which are just organizations following different delivery practices. They can absolutely be in the same Jira Line instance and run. And the important thing is still, can we have a shared understanding of people, work, and time? Who are our teams? Who comprise our teams? What is the work that we're committing to at the different levels of scale? And then based on time commitments and time horizons, where our commitments fall. That is, delivery team, we want to deliver value within 2 weeks. Team of teams, maybe within a month or a quarter. And on a portfolio, we want to see a return or a delivery within a quarter or a half a year or so.
Got it. And along the lines, I know you probably have worked with hundreds and hundreds of customers and done quite a few demos. Can you share what are the, I'll say, markers of somebody who is ready for Jira Line? What is the ideal customer or prospect? I mean, you can think of size, you can look at size, their business requirements like that. What's your thought about that?
So I look at it, it's like, if they are feeling the pain, that's when they become more and more of an ideal customer, because customers are very industrious. They'll figure things out on their own if they possibly can. They don't necessarily want to ask for help. And so you'll have the teams in Jira and they're bolting on whatever they can to help
Right.
answer the questions that they might have. But there just comes a point where you're like, this isn't quite doing it for me. And you're like, there's got to be something easier, better, whatever. It's to the point when they become a more ideal customer. So you absolutely can extend Jira to meet a lot of needs. But on a team level, certainly, it can help. Again, it doesn't matter if it's a business team, an IT team, or it could be a services team, and ITSM team. All of those, they can continue to operate in there. But then you can use something like advanced roadmaps in Jira to start to visualize, but that's really, say, on a program level. But then what do you do when we start talking about, on enterprise level, outcomes and key results? What happens when we talk about organizational dependencies that are so severe that it's impacting our ability to deliver? And we spend most of our time managing dependencies versus mitigating them. And we're dealing with all these days, weeks of delay. It's when you start feeling that pain, when you're like, yeah, most of our work is constantly delayed and we don't have visibility on what we're all working on, and I don't know where my money's going. That's when I think, you're feeling that pain. That's when it's absolutely, it may be past due, that you give us a call about, can Jira, that's when you ask the question, can Jira Line help me solve my problem? And so if you can articulate what your problem is, either I don't know where my money's going, I don't know where my team's capacity is going, I can't balance capacity and demand, I don't know where the dependencies are, but I know they're out there, but I don't know where they are, then we can, again, absolutely, we can provide a demonstration, we can start answering some of those questions.
Yeah, we were talking, I think it was just yesterday, where oftentimes it's those individuals that are working with Jira actually talking about there's got to be a better way of reporting to my boss or executives in terms of how well we're doing. And it's oftentimes those individuals that are working with the Atlassian product set that starts bubbling up ideas to executives and those individuals that could really benefit from from a product like Jira Line. We've seen that in several of our customers. And also, we provide assessments, Atlassian assessments at Wrightstar. Oftentimes, those assessments start at, okay, so how can we better use Jira software? How can we use Jira Service Management better, and Confluence, and then all our add-ons? But as we get into the assessment, start talking to individuals, not only the folks using Atlassian on a daily basis, but those individuals that rely on information from those folks. We identify areas where Jira Line can certainly help them as well. And, conversations start from there. And then, it's typically never a quick process, right? It's like a drip. People start thinking about, oh yeah, we can improve this process. We can drive more information efficiency. Maybe we should start looking at Jira Line and perhaps how it can help our organization. Now, I've worked with very small organizations that started out purchasing a small subset of Jira Line, and it continue to grow little by little. And then I have organizations that are looking at, thousands of licenses of Jira Line. They just want to do a big bang. What do you usually see? Do you see somebody buy maybe 30, 40, 50 licenses and then have it grow, or do you see big bang stuff?
So I'm going to say, again, it depends. Sounds very consulty. It depends. But the success pattern is, I think it's absolutely fair that you are expecting a demonstration of value when you buy products and services. You want to get a return on your investment. It's really hard to say, well, this product is going to allow you to deliver so much more in the future. Why don't we just say, how much money can it save us on wasted effort? And there's efficiencies and things like that. And so what I've seen is I understand that some organizations, they want to say, give me total cost of ownership if I license my entire organization. And I'm going to say, that's and based on budgetary requirements and things like that, maybe they're forced into that conversation. But what I'm saying is, I see organizations try before it's like do a 90-day jump start and understand what value would be to you, understand how you would measure, engage Wrightstar and assess them to see where are they now and where do they expect to be, and then use that group as a lighthouse, demonstrate value, provide some local context, and then use what you have done in 90 days to learn. And then you're like, okay, well, we got a return on this. Let's look at this next program or portfolio. How would we get a return on that investment? And have a hypothesis coming into this, and then commit a group. And again, this is a change management effort here. For this success, you need to go as high in the organization as possible, because if this is a grassroots effort, change is hard. And so you do want executive buy-in, and you want them to stand and shout from the mountain to say, this is important to us. This is important to me. This is how you're going to help us be successful. And you will get so much more value out of the product than versus saying, okay, y'all going to use this tool now. And you don't explain why and what the value and why it's important.
Yeah, I think we've all been there at some point in time in our career. Yeah. We're coming up to probably some questions and hopefully some answers from us here shortly. There is one more question that I have for you that I think, I'd probably want to know if I was sitting out there looking at this presentation. If I'm interested in Jira Line, what information do you need, or certainly Wrightstar can provide demos, but what do you need in preparing a demo specific to a customer's needs?
I ask, it's always like, who's going to be in the room, and what's your pain point? What's keeping you up at night? What problems are you trying to solve? And if we can understand that, again, this is not about demonstrating the capabilities of a product as much as showing you how this can relieve pain, within an organization, or how it can help solve problems. And so if I can understand your role, your responsibilities, how this can help you, then I can taper a demonstration to help show you how I can give you 10, 20% of your week back, because you're not having to do something again and again and again. You just do it once over here, and then everybody sees what you just did.
Right.
And so to answer the question directly, if we can understand what are your pain points, what is your role and your responsibilities with the organization, then we can usually customize a demo for you. If not, if you're looking for a general demonstration, then it's very, very wide. It's a very powerful and expansive platform. And so if we want to make sure that we satisfy your need, then we need to understand what it is, some of the pain points that you have.
Yeah, thanks, Derek. I appreciate that. Derek, it's been a pleasure speaking with you today. And thank you for your time and the expertise that you've shown here during the presentation. And personally, we've worked together with several different customers, and you always provide value during the demo. So thanks so much.
Thank you.
Elena, we're ready for questions if you like, if there's anybody out there that has any questions.
Sounds good. We do actually have one question that came across. In government, project portfolio management is popular. Is Jira Align the right tool for this? And is Jira Align aligned to overall agency IT spending?
So I would say there hasn't been a situation that it hasn't at scale. So let's talk about organizations at scale. At scale, I have yet to be stumped that it doesn't provide value to some degree to somebody. The question is some specifics to their context of what, where they're coming from. Elena, could you repeat the question one more time for me, just so I can double click on it?
Yeah, of course. So in the government, project portfolio management is popular. Is Jira Align the right tool for this? And is Jira Align aligned to overall agency IT spending?
Okay. So it sounded when I heard project in there. So to be clear, Jira Line is not a PPM solution. It is geared toward an organization at scale that is shifting to using agile scaling patterns. That is, we're shifting from project toward product. Project being, we get funding, we create a team, we deliver, we decompose, we disband the team when we're done. We believe that we now have durable teams, and that you'll have a team, they'll work together, you will fund that team, you'll fund initiatives, feed that team that work, and you'll deliver value over time. You'll operationalize and get value on those deliveries. So short answer is yes, I would usually say if you're a project-based organization, then yes, there are ways to configure a portfolio in which you can see gates within Jira Line. You can see milestones on the roadmap. You can do all those things. I would say it provides greater value when you shift to a product-focused organization. There's nothing that is preventing you from having both a project and product organization operating within the same Jira Line instance. And so it's just understanding those requirements going into an implementation, because we would just configure it to accommodate the context of that.
Great. Thank you, Derek. That was very helpful. We do have about 5-ish minutes, closer to 6 maybe, for questions. If anyone would like to submit a question via the chat pod at the bottom of your screen, we can continue filtering some questions. In the meantime, Derek or Dan, are there any Jira Align success stories in the federal government that you'd be willing to share? I think Dan kind of already touched on this earlier on in the session, but is there maybe another example you would possibly be able to share with everyone today?
Well, I'll defer to Derek. Derek, what customers have you worked with?
I'm going through my Rolodex. I don't know. I honestly, I'm not certain if I'm allowed to mention names.
Yeah, actually, I think you're right. Come to think of it. I have one example. It's very simple. It's a pseudo state agency that was very focused on reporting primarily. We brought that up earlier, and then also understanding what all their teams were doing in their within their Scrum teams and projects and so forth. And their primary reason for buying Jira Line, this was a small organization, it was about 100 license or so. They wanted to keep track of resources and money and so forth. So they've just started on their journey. I think it's going to be very successful, but we probably won't know for several months. But they saw the value in selecting Jira Line.
And in addition to federal agencies, the ones that I'm seeing more interest in is the federal system integrators. They're very excited about the possibility, because it's an interesting situation when we talk about commercial and we talk about the federal space. Is I don't think the commercial space fully appreciates the level of scale that the federal government brings to bear. And it definitely is. I mean, it can scale. If it means that you're doing a Jira Line instance to instance integration to accommodate that scale, you could do that, versus just, if some people think of scale just taking a few Jira boards and you put them in a Jira project. And then I said, well, okay, we're going to integrate those projects into a program, into a portfolio, and then we have multiple portfolios within an instance. Now imagine in the federal space, we could do an instance to instance integration as well. Think of the level of transparency we can provide by doing something like that.
Yeah, and while you were talking, I was thinking, how about that? I think there are some good examples in the civilian and DoD space. So can't really name drop, but can kind of give you an idea of where they're using Jira Line today.
I see Jim Dodson made a comment in the chat I want to note. He was saying that clients are currently using on-prem version for civilian DoD and federal system integrator community today. So I just want to be clear. The code, what you're getting on-prem is the same you're getting in cloud, and data centers. So you're not compromising by choosing on-prem solution. What it does is it allows you to, again, have that safety, security, knowing, that you're maintaining it. But if you have security concerns, that on-prem solution provides you direct access to the same capabilities that we would have in the cloud.
Right.
Great. I think we have time for about one final question. What about, again, posing to Derek and Dan, what about the art of possible? I know that's a pretty broad topic, but would you be able to touch on that quickly?
Dan, do you want me to lead on that?
I do, because I don't understand the question completely.
So that's part of my job. So my job is I get super excited about this because it is the art of the possible. And people will come to me with their problems and I can say, well, okay, this is what I've done in the past. But then you're like, wow, that's a very compelling, challenging conversation. And so when we talk about the art of the possible, like one of my most recent requests is I've got an executive. They are in Jira Line. They have objectives. They have key results. We have qualitative and quantitative measures that tell us if we're moving the needle or not. But, we have data that tells us if we're moving the needle, and I think I mentioned it earlier. We have some of it in Clarity. We have some of it in Salesforce. We have some of it in Marketo. We have all this data coming from all these third-party systems. And I'm like, okay, so what we're doing now is doing API integrations with those third-party systems. So instead of you going to that system, looking at the data, coming in and manually entering it in Jira Line. We just do an API integration, and it is again, it's unlocked the potential of an organization because now they're merging the data together. They're enhancing that data, and then they can take that data, use enterprise insights, and then they can create these new reports. Again, that they have a level of visibility they've never had before because they're looking at the system of delivery. Let's say the system of delivery in Jira Line, the system of resources or human capital in Workday, and they're looking at an accounting system in, say, Clarity or something like that. And all of that data can flow into Jira Line through enterprise insights and then into a centralized reporting structure. So there are so many possibilities at scale. That's what I love about this is it's continually extending to accommodate complexity at scale.
That's great. Well, thank you, Derek and Dan, for your time today. We'd also like to thank all of you for joining us. We hope that you found this webinar informative and helpful to both you and your organization. If you have any further questions or would like to request more information, please contact our team via the information displayed on the screen.